Hi everyone, greetings of the day. I am Radhika, a PG student from Little Flower Institute of Medical Science and Research, Angamali, Kerala, India, and I am here to present our review article entitled Happiness, the Role of Neurochemicals. Moving on to the introduction. So what is happiness, or what is the so-called sense of happiness? It's a feeling that occurs when you're aware that life is good and you smile for that sole reason. It's a sense of joy, well-being, pleasure, satisfaction or contentment. It's influenced by several factors, both exogenously and endogenously. Amongst all the endogenous determinants, the role of neurochemicals tends to be the most dependent predictor of happiness. Neurochemicals are certain organic peptides or substances secreted from different endocrine and paracrine cells, nerve endings and some other tissues of the body that participates in activities or functions of the brain. So what are emotions? Emotions are conditions of the mind produced in response to internal or external stimuli that are duly influenced by these neurochemical releases. Happiness is highly correlated with peace of mind and affects the mood of an individual, and it is a wide array of factors governing its fullness. As we all know, the most preferred emotion of mankind is none other than happiness itself. All these factors are a function of different neurochemicals secreted from several parts of the body and are under discussion in detail. We are going to discuss about 12 neurochemicals which directly or indirectly affects happiness. The aim of the review is to gather information about the neurochemicals that predominantly affects happiness directly or indirectly. Moving on to the first and most important happy hormone, or the hormone that affects the biochemistry of happiness, which has an inevitable role in the physiology that generates this emotion. Oxytocin is an oligopeptide hormone with 9 amino acids and is released from the neurohypophysis. It is synthesized mainly in the paraventricular nucleus and partly in the supraoptic nucleus of hypothalamus and is released in the posterior pituitary via the hypothalamo-hypophyseal tract. So what is the role of oxytocin in happiness? It's referred to as the bonding molecule or hug hormone as per previous studies because its level goes high during feeding the baby, skin to skin contact, intercourse, orgasm and hugging. It's also a hormone involved in increasing the trust and loyalty as per recent studies and is known to cause romantic attachment. In other words, it is known to facilitate social interaction and is also linked with positive social behavior. It has been recently shown that oxytocin causes a huge scale of physiological and behavioral effects controlled via certain receptors in the brain, mainly social, sexual and maternal behaviors. Low levels of oxytocin is associated with depression, poor communication, increased fear and anxiety, sleep disturbances, irritability and cravings for sugar. Gifting can increase the release of the hormone established by increasing the bond between the receiver and the giver. Let's discuss about another hormone or neurochemical that affects biochemistry of happiness, and they are known as endorphins or endogenous morphins. These are actually a major part of the endogenous pain inhibiting systems of the body or the endogenous analgesic system, and hence they are naturally produced inside the body. These are opioid neuropeptides and are known to be derived from repeated cleavage of its precursor molecule, pro-opiomelanocortin polypeptide, which is synthesized in the pituitary gland and in some amounts by the immune system. Role of endorphins in happiness. Endorphins are pain-killing molecules or pain relievers have been found to be linked with pleasure states like emotions brought about by love, laughter, sex and even appetite. Even though it functions mainly in blocking pain, they are also a reason for our pleasure feelings, and for this reason It is one of the 4 major hormones of happiness, or so-called pleasure hormones. Clinically, endorphins have been associated with conditions of autism, depression, and depersonalization disorder, and physiologically known to be related with activities like laughter and vigorous aerobic exercise. Next, serotonin, also known as 5-hydroxytryptamine, is a complex neurotransmitter, and it's distributed in various body tissues like central nervous system, gastrointestinal tract, etc. And it is known as entramine due to its elevated levels or increased concentrations in the intestine. It is a derivative of the branched chain amino acid tryptophan and is metabolized to 5-hydroxyindoleacetic acid. Role in happiness. Serotonin is known as the confidence molecule and brings about confidence and self-esteem, as the name indicates, and there is a positive feedback loop that causes further release of the chemical through building up self-esteem. It controls an immense spectrum of physiological and biological actions like arousal, aggression, mood, memory, and abilities of thinking. Raised levels of serotonin are identified during states of self-confidence, feeling of a self-significance, and causes relaxation, from which it's clear that absence of serotonin imparts feeling of being depressed or lonely. They belong to a wide range of antidepressants called serotonin-specific reuptake inhibitors, indicating their role in mood upliftment. Excess levels of serotonin induces sedation and apathy, while lower levels of serotonin is attributed to less mood, depression, poor control of appetite, anxiety disorders, lack of will, social and sexual behavioral problems. Dopamine. Dopamine is a catecholamine neurotransmitter, biogenic amine, and an adrenomedullary hormone. It's a principal neurotransmitter of several pathways in the central nervous system, starting in the midbrain. It belongs to the phenethylamine family, and normal plasma level is 0.13 nanomoles per liter. Role in happiness. Dopamine is known to be a reward molecule and is normally thought to be involved in anticipation. In the brain, it feeds the reward pathways and is concerned with addiction, drive, motivation, and pleasure, ovulation, and muscle control. It's also known to be associated with vigilance, alertness, cognition, memory, and happiness. It's known to be a reward molecule as it is continuously found to be released in achievements like scoring a goal, hitting a target, or accomplishing a task, and reward from the brain telling that he or she has done a good job. Also, dopamine is known to be released naturally on showing kindness to others, and even thoughts of loving kindness can elevate dopamine levels. Volunteering has also been known to cause the release of dopamine. High levels of dopamine are associated with loss of consciousness, with reality, lack of emotion, addictive behavior, suspicious personality, possible paranoia, and delusions, while significantly low levels are linked to depression, mood swings, attention deficit, cognitive issues, compulsive behavior, cravings, apathy, loss of satisfaction in life, activities, risk-taking, and addictive behavior. Let's peep into the role of estrogens in the biochemistry of happiness. Estrogens are certain ovarian steroid hormones secreted from the granulosa cells of the ovarian follicles, corpus luteum, and placenta. It is also indirectly released from adrenal glands as the androgens are converted to estrogens by the enzyme aromatase. The naturally synthesized estrogens include 17-beta-estradiol, estrone, and estriol, the former being 15 and 80 times more potent than the respective latter ones. It is mainly synthesized from cholesterol, and its mechanism of action is through the transcription of mRNAs. Role in happiness. Estrogen is known to be a happy hormone due to its indirect effect in stimulating the formation of serotonin. This can protect the body from conditions of irritability and anxiety, thereby keeping the mood constant. It's also known to cause increased secretion of endorphins, both of which are chemical messengers linked with positive states of mood. Estrogens can cause mood disruptions in women, failure of synthesis or low levels of which can result in mood swings, anxiety and depression. High levels of estrogen can also be dangerous. Estrogen has a role in regulating the levels of the hormones like serotonin, endorphins and norepinephrine by causing a decline in the level of the enzyme monooxidase that deactivates these hormones, hence referred to as positive mood hormone. Next, let's discuss about another steroid hormone, which is a C21 steroid hormone, that is progesterone. It's secreted by the corpus luteum and placenta during pregnancy period. A small amount is also released from the adrenal cortex in testes. The normal plasma levels of the hormone vary with different phases of the female sexual cycle. However, it reaches its peak in the luteal phase, that is 80 nanograms per ml of blood. Role in happiness. Progesterone alters the secretion of several neurotransmitters in the brain, affecting mainly sleep and appetite. It causes the effect of somnolence, that is, it helps to sleep well and thereby prevents anxiety, feelings of irritability and mood swings. This can help in maintenance of a peaceful or calm state of mind. Progesterone, due to its Valium-like effect of its metabolite named allopregnanolone, is known to soothe the mood. Allopregnanolone interacts directly with the receptors of Gaba, promoting sleep. Progesterone also has a control on the diamine oxidase enzyme and therefore relieves the symptoms of anxiety in condition of histamine intolerance. Progesterone also seems to activate the activity of amygdala, the chief alert system of the brain. In all these ways, it promotes a peaceful and calm mind, causing happiness. Next, endocannabinoids. Endocannabinoids are defined as the endogenous ligands of the cannabinoid receptors, mainly CB1 and CB2. These are self-produced cannabis and works on the CB1 and CB2 receptors of the cannabinoid system, and anandamide is the most known among them. The endocannabinoid system includes endocannabinoids, cannabinoid receptors, and enzymes that synthesize and degrade endocannabinoids. Role in happiness. Cannabis compounds are actually called as bliss molecules. It enhances the subjective concept of well-being by activating the endocannabinoid system and modulates almost all of the response to stress, reward, and also the interactions between them. There are much evidences that endocannabinoids control mood, emotion, memory, motivation, perception of pleasure, metabolism, and appetite, and so on. The association between cannabinoids and different states of emotion has empirically and scientifically been established for long. The first active ingredient of the system was discovered from the cannabis plant, Cannabis sativa, and is delta-9 tetrahydrocannabinol, and even it tends to produce euphoria and enhancement of sensory perceptions. The discovery of endocannabinoids opened a new pathway to the biochemistry of happiness, for previously it was named after serotonin and dopamine. The name of well-known endocannabinoid anandamide itself, ananda, Sanskrit word meaning joy, bliss or happiness, reveals its role in mood states. They are also known to play an important role in response to stress, that is, they are compounds released in response to diverse stimuli of stress, and they will protect the body and helps in stress management. Adrenaline and noradrenaline, or the so-called important catecholamines. Adrenaline or epinephrine is a primary catecholamine synthesized from the adrenal medulla and constitutes about 85% of the total catecholamines. However, smaller amounts are synthesized in the brain. The normal plasma concentration of epinephrine is 30 picograms per ml, and that of norepinephrine is 300 picograms per ml. These are short-span hormones and are conjugated to sulfate in the liver and kidney after its utilization. Role in happiness. First, adrenaline. It's termed to be the energy molecule, as it releases causes an energy surge. This surge helps us feel lively and can be an antidote for malaise, stagnation and boredom. Urinary adrenaline is known to be a good predictor of happiness, which is derived from the fact that individuals with higher personal growth and purpose in life had a lower level of urinary adrenaline. Adrenaline rush helps an individual undergoing distress to feel very much alive and provide he or she with energy to cope with that situation. Next, role of noradrenaline in happiness. Noradrenaline is a stress hormone which controls and coordinates the flight and fight response along with the chemically similar counterpart adrenaline. It regulates much of the physical parts of emotion, mainly raised heart rate, and also acts in certain brain centers stimulating alertness, cognition and decision-making behavior. Low levels of norepinephrine have been associated to depression, and further studies suggested that certain norepinephrine reuptake inhibitors, antidepressants that are highly selective, influences a positive emotional and perceptual bias. Next, gamma aminobutyric acid, in short GABA. GABA is an inhibitory neurotransmitter in the central nervous system. It's synthesized by the decarboxylation of glutamate. Receptors of GABA causes presynaptic inhibition. Role in happiness. Activation of GABA improves mood indirectly and makes it possible by easing stress and anxiety. In case of feeling down but not being anxious or stressed, GABA may not exert its effects on happiness or being calm, but in case of feeling stress and blue or anxiety, GABA may help lift the mood and bring a little more relaxed happiness. GABA plays an important role in regulation of many physiological and psychological processes by inhibition of neuron signaling in the brain. So, dysfunction of this system is indicated in the pathophysiology of anxiety and depression. For this reason, GABA is known as the anti-anxiety molecule and creates a sense of calmness. Low levels of GABA are found in medical conditions like seizures, anxiety, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, etc. So let's understand the role of the life-saving hormone cortisol in the biochemistry of happiness. Cortisol is secreted from the zone of fasciculator layer of the adrenal cortex, and it's mainly regulated by two hormones secreted from the higher centers, corticotropin releasing hormone and adrenocorticotropic hormone. It's a steroid hormone synthesized from cholesterol and is transported through the plasma in free as well as bound forms. Its mechanism of action is by the gene regulatory elements of the cell, as it is a steroid hormone. The receptors are glucocorticoid receptors and the normal plasma levels are 14 μg per dl. Role in happiness. The primary and most important function of cortisol is to save the body in stressful conditions. Stress is in fact described as a condition in which there is an increased secretion of ACTH. The role of cortisol is in managing stress, and as per indicated by different studies, the relationship between cortisol and depression is a reverse dimension of happiness. It is also a congruous marker for depression. Raised levels of early morning cortisol have been associated to depression and neuroticism. Atypical secretion patterns of the hormone have been related to stress, anxiety and depression. Melatonin or N-acetyl 5-methoxytryptamine is a peptide hormone secreted from the parenchymal cells of the pineal gland and is synthesized from tryptamine, which is formed by the decarboxylation of the amino acid tryptophan. The secretion peaks during the night time. There are two types of receptors for the hormone ML1 and ML2. It is known as the biological clock and maintains a diurnal rhythm or so-called sleep-wake cycle. Role in happiness. The hormone is associated with the mechanism by which our body becomes ready for sleep. Studies already conducted provides proof for the assumption that melatonin level is linked to the level of the happiness. Melatonin is known to have a role in depression, and few of the antidepressants erases the melatonin levels in blood. So we are about to conclude the topic. Out of the all 12 neurochemicals, serotonin, dopamine, oxytocin and endorphins were purely independent and accurate predictors of happiness and had significant role in its biochemical aspects and hence referred to as the major pleasure hormones. The remaining were found to affect happiness either indirectly or by directly stimulating the higher centers of the brain. From this, it can be concluded that the major endogenous factors that exaggerate the feeling of happiness or bring about itself are the release of such neurochemicals and their actions. Also, further studies are required to precisely evaluate the biochemical role of these neurochemicals in the physiology of happiness. So, these are our references. Spread your smile and keep smiling always. Let that feeling of well-being secrete more happy hormones in your body and activate a vicious positive feedback cycle so that you can smile even more and more. Thank you for your attention. Have a nice day.